Why is it considered such a moral crime and a sick thing to like a 16-year-old?
Hey guys, I found the biggest idiot I think I've ever found on YouTube so far. So, with that being said, it's time to slay a dragon!
Pedophilia pisses me off because it's one of those topics that you can't even talk about. If you make any kind of comment that sounds remotely like you don't absolutely despise pedophiles, then everyone's knee-jerk reaction is to call you a pedophile by association.
Of course, it's a knee-jerk reaction.
Dude, what the fuck?
I do not care if it's just thoughts. These thoughts should not exist in normal functioning adults, period. The reason why they're associating you with actual pedophiles is because it's very akin to the justification and rationalization that is shown by actual offenders. And unless you are someone who is clinically studying pedophilic tendencies in order to prevent more offenders, they should be removed from regular society and in their own communities. Studies have shown that it's an actual neurodevelopmental disorder that can start in utero. And here's a weird fact, the majority of pedophiles are left-handed. But dragons don't even know how to write, do they, Spyro? How would you even know if you're left-handed?
So you have to preface every single sentence with, "I don't find kids attractive," and "I don't support pedophiles."
So, Smog, if you don't support pedophiles, what's up with this video supporting pedophiles? I believe that makes you a hippogriff. A hypocrite.
But I've said before that I'm not attracted to humans, period.
So if this video hasn't already gotten this weirdo onto some sort of watch list, if it hasn't made the hair on your neck stand up straight, if it hasn't made you want to violently vomit everywhere, I'm gonna go ahead and reference another one of Falcor's videos called Furries and Bestiality, which explains that weird little statement that he just made.
So let's get down to it. What are some of the arguments that maybe bestiality isn't so wrong? Well, humans are animals too. Is there really a difference between our desire to breed and any other animals? We talk about consent a lot, but is there even such a thing as consent for most animals?
It seems more game warden thing to me.
Well, it's illegal, Burton, I know that.
Mind you, this dude pussyfoots around the entire video and inches his sickening fucking ideas into it little by little. It's a lot like how O.J. Simpson wrote that one book, I didn't do it, but if I would have done it, this is how I would have done it. It's the kind of fuck shit that you can only rationalize if that's something you're into as well. This only helps other abusers play mental gymnastics and justify the horrible things that they're into, instead of seeking help or instead of fixing the issue by blowing their brains out. Oh hey, guess what? This guy isn't even a dragon.
Hi, I'm KOTHORIX.
And that's who you keep your kids away from, everybody.
So, there are several kinds of pedophiles. There are pedophiles which are people attracted to young kids, such as a 30-year-old wanting to have sex with an 8-year-old. There are child molesters who are 30-year-olds who actually do have sex with 8-year-olds.
Actually, no, this is the difference. A pedophile is someone that is always going to be attracted to children. They have always had these traits, and it has nothing to do with whether or not they offend. True pedophiles have the highest rate of recidivism. They're the habitual offenders that can't be rehabilitated. A child molester isn't always necessarily a true pedophile. Well, yes, for the sake of all this, they are all pedophiles. But the typical non-pedophilic child molester only turns to kids out of desperation, and their main sexual orientation is typically towards adults. In this category of societal fuck-ups, these people tend to go after female children that they're related to, unlike a true pedophile who will usually groom their victim or hunt them out. The difference lies in their primary sexual attraction. It has nothing to do with whether they have offended or not. Fuck you, Mushu, I really didn't want to have to research all this. Why even make this video?
Why? Why?
That's something that I don't understand. Out of all the things that you could talk about in your weird little furry world and the weird world of the internet in general.
And then there are pedophiles by technicality, which is something like a 20-year-old wanting to have sex with a 16-year-old. And this is also called a pedophilia. What irks me about our society is that it doesn't matter which one of these you are. It doesn't matter if you actually commit the crime.
So Charmander, I'm still working on hunting down your lair. However, in most states, including my own, there's a 4 to 8 year grace period for situations like this. For instance, in Florida, the age of sexual consent is 16, but they can only fuck somebody up to 24. While I don't feel that the 16 to 20 age gap is reason enough to break out the pitchforks and torches, I have a really hard time justifying anyone between the ages of 21 and 24 having anything in common with a 16-year-old besides interlocking genitals. And that definitely gives me the creeps anyway. I mean, if you can go down to the pub and get absolutely tanked, what business do you have with a high schooler? Again, it may not be legally wrong or all that morally wrong, but it's still weird.
But for those who simply have the thought of being attracted to kids, I have sympathy for. Because sexuality isn't a choice. It's something that is part of you and you can't get rid of it. And there are no real options for people who are attracted to kids. You have to keep it to yourself for fear of society branding you as a child molester, or fear of being on some kind of watch list for a crime that you have never committed.
Yes, there are options for people with pedophilic thoughts. There are sexual suppression drugs. There's therapy. For fuck's sake, they should be on a watch list so they don't act on their impulses. I do not care if they have acted on their thoughts. I do not care if you feel sympathy for them. They are a loaded gun. And this is the kind of Stockholm Syndrome bullshit that needs to stop. Yeah, their brains are wired wrong, as I mentioned before, but that doesn't mean that they shouldn't be kept a close eye on. This is one of those scenarios where idiots like you are like, oh, the poor predator, until it's your son or daughter, until it's your niece or nephew, or until it's you. But what needs to be focused on is preventing these thoughts that eventually turn into action, to help a kid that deserves an actual chance at a real future that isn't laden with scars.
And the way I see some people react to them sickens me more than the thought of pedophilia itself. And the way I see some people react to them sickens me more than the thought of pedophilia itself.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
Because they are so harshly judged and hated, and rarely is that hatred about kids being hurt or exploited, or actual things that I could understand feeling hatred about. The hatred is because their sensibilities have been offended, and because it's socially acceptable to hate that person.
How would it not be about kids being exploited? Get this, Toothless. The reason why people hate pedophiles to their very core is because it's incurable. It can be managed, but it will never be fixed. Up to 46% of sexual offenders reoffend. The more violent the crime, the more likely they are to repeat it. The reason why people hate pedophiles is because they commit some of the most sickening and disgusting crimes that there are, which scar people for their entire lives. And normalizing people that have these thoughts is extremely dangerous. They need professional help, not some internet lizard making them think that their thought process is normal.
Why does the law decide that a person becomes an adult at age 18? There is no magical leap of maturity because the sun has revolved around the planet exactly 18 times since they were born.
Because that's the age when most people are physically and mentally developed to be adults. And even at 18, your prefrontal cortex is only halfway developed. So deal with it, Puff.
Why is it considered such a moral crime and a sick thing to like a 16-year-old?
Because they're still a kid. I'd say go to the mall and view kids in their annoying natural habitat, and then honestly tell me you have anything in common with a 16-year-old. But you're probably not allowed to go to the mall or be anywhere within 500 feet of it.
I'm not, super upset about this whole thing. I just feel it's kind of rude. Attractiveness and beauty standards are almost always measured by youth. Pornography distributors especially value youth, and the reason is because we have a natural drive and instinct to breed with those who are young and fertile.
So what? No. A woman's fertility peaks anywhere between age 22 and 26. So this whole breed the fertile argument falls completely short. There's a higher likelihood of pregnancy complications and even loss for the barely legal age chicks. From a medical historical perspective, there has never been a time when 17-year-olds were more fertile than women in their 20s. Fuck you. I think I see Kathurka.
In Japan, the age of consent is 13, which many Americans view as sick and twisted, but I'm sure the Japanese just see it as normal and consider Americans exceptional prudes.
Of course, this dork would reference Japan. Alright, so Haku, the minimal age of consent is 13 in Japan, but that applies to 13-year-olds and other kids. The Japanese Child Welfare Act says, any act of fornication with children, hereby defined as anyone under the age of 18, is forbidden. Also, the Juvenile Obscene Act protects minors from unethical relationships, and it is still very much a crime in Japan to have sex with kids. And over there, everyone under the age of 20 is considered a juvenile. So say goodbye to your Japanese pedo tour, because it ain't happening.
So today, I wanted to teach you guys how to say fuck you in Japanese. Shit.
I really hate you. Like, way more than a normal person that I would hate on the internet.
You do not have to agree with me. You don't have to suddenly love people who have sexual fetishes that you find disgusting. But I think you should consider one thing. 150 years ago, it was considered disgusting for a white woman to like a black man.
That's an irrelevant argument. Those are two consenting adults.
50 years ago, it was considered disgusting and even a mental illness for a man to like another man.
Look at that! More consenting adults!
What if the perfectly consensual, legal pornography that you like is suddenly considered criminal and disgusting and devious by the government?
There is no part whatsoever of any child pornography ever being legal or consensual. I am a huge fan of organizations that hunt down the bastards that indulge in it.
What if suddenly you're considered a disgusting and evil individual because of the color of your skin or your gender?
Race and gender have absolutely fucking nothing to do with this. People think pedophiles are disgusting and vile because of the damage that they inflict on children that lasts them their entire lives, you fucking yiffbag. Look what I got!
I suppose I just want people to feel some amount of understanding and compassion for those whose thoughts and desires don't line up with their own sensibilities. And maybe have some faith in others, that even though they may have unsavory desires, it does not mean that they will act on them.
No.
Your conclusions are wrong, and I don't know what else to say about it.
Jesus Christ.
Hey guys, so I know here on the MorganIstKrieg show we do a lot of bullshitting and making fun of morons, but this is on a more serious note for anyone that might be in crisis and needs help. Here are 2 sexual abuse hotlines, and I hope from the bottom of my heart no one will ever have to use these, but all of us here on the compound believe in safety and making a difference. Thank you guys for all of your support, and I'll see you next time.